Love is a lot like physics. It takes study to understand how masses yours, his attract, how his body heat conducts, and your heart rate accelerates before either has had time to evaluate impact. You think you understand velocity, assume his speed at takeoff matches yours. You fail to account for force, or Newton's third law of motion. The outcome of one wrong electric charge leaves all the circuits broken. You begin to oscillate, fall from orbit, finally calculating the variables of just so much hot air. Soapstone on Love is a Lot Like Physics. The speaker sounds like someone who has been in love before, but had their heart broken by someone because of a misunderstanding. She's explaining this through physics. The situation in this is love through physics. The speaker is talking about how people can start loving each other, but they can also fall out of love because of a misunderstanding or an argument. The audience in this are the people who are trying to understand love. They probably understand physics, but not love, so they're learning love through physics. The purpose is for people to understand about how what love has to do with physics and how it has to be cared for and studied like physics. An example of this in physics terms are how if one wrong electric charge happens, it leaves all the circuits broken. And in a real life love relationship, this would be like if one argument or one mishap happens, then it can break your relationship or the bond with the person. The subject is how love is a topic that has to be studied and focused on like physics, or the bond can break two individuals. The speaker's tone is positive until the fifth stanza. In stanza 1, 2, 3, and 4, the author is kind of like optimistic and like not really looking at the bad side, and she's talking about how love is good and how like you fall in love. But then from the fifth stanza, she becomes kind of like sad, I guess, and starts talking about how love can break your heart, and like if you don't understand the person correctly, you will fall out of love. She goes from a loving tone to a sad tone. The devices in this poem are stanza, because there is 9 stanzas in this. Simile, because they say love is a lot like physics, and they use like to compare love and physics. There is enjambment. In many stanzas, they run the sentence on into the next. From stanza 1 to 4, they're running the sentences. So, for example, from stanza 1 to 2, it's like love is a lot like physics. It takes study to understand how mass is, and that's how they're running it on. And they also do that in the next stanzas. And then they do that from stanza 5 to 9. And then there is juxtaposition, and this is how they're putting love and physics next to each other because they're two unlike ideas, and they're like showing how they're alike.